Is it VRBO or Verbo? Like, somebody chime in and tell me if I'm saying it right or wrong. I don't know. What do you say?
I think it's Verbo, but the only reason I think that is because I watch the Kardashian shows and they call it Verbo, and I feel like they know what's up. Welcome back to another episode of the show, your place for real talk about traveling with kids, planning trips with friends, and making big adventures doable for real families.
Today, we're diving into how we decided on Panama for our spring break family trip. We almost booked Fiji, then we almost booked Costa Rica, but somehow Panama won. And we're walking you through all of it.
So let's get into it.
Welcome to Organized Chaos.
I feel like we should talk real quick about the Instagram and the TikTok algorithm, and how does the internet decide what is going to get more views than like one thing versus another? I have zero clue.
The posts that I feel like I spend a lot of time on never do well, and the ones that it's like a 5-second thing hit. Everybody likes it. So I seriously can't figure it out.
Oh, I'm going to make this really visually beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
With nice music, and I'm going to give a lot of facts, and it's like, that is not what the people want.
No.
What I find interesting is what hits on TikTok doesn't necessarily translate to Instagram and vice versa. And whatever I post does not hit on TikTok.
The TikTokers do not seem to like you.
They don't like my content. And like, I don't take it personally. I think I'm just like an elder millennial.
If we're going to be very honest, it's that I'm chronically online and TikTokers are chronically online. And so that's part of it.
I think you know what the trends are.
Yeah.
While I'm like a grandma over here, like, I think everybody would love to know what to do when they lose their luggage. Not the case. Anybody who has any tips or tricks or can break down the algorithm for us, please message us. We would love some more information there.
We want to figure it out.
We need virality. We need people to listen to our show. Help us out. Thanks. Let's talk Panama. I can't get that Van Halen song out of my head. It's an absolute banger.
Yeah, I feel like you've been singing it for like 6 months now, honestly.
My kids won't stop. Every time we bring up the trip, they start going, Panama. I apologize for my terrible singing, but it is stuck in my head, and I absolutely love that song.
So let's start with why Panama even came up as a spring break trip.
Our kids go to different schools, so we can't always guarantee a family trip where our timing always overlaps and makes sense for both families. But this year, our kids' spring breaks were on the same week, and all of our kids are a year older, so this opened up a little bit more flexibility for our planning.
Right. So just to recap, my kids are now 8 years old, 6 years old, and 3 years old. And Kathleen's kids are 7 and 5.
We try to make these decisions on the destination collectively. Everybody gets a say. And for a while, we were really going hard on Fiji.
Fiji was so tempting. I have a really, really good friend who had gone to Fiji semi-recently with her kids, and she had nothing but glowing reviews. And this is a girl who travels with her kids and her family everywhere. So if she says go to Fiji, I was like, yep, I'm all in. Maybe we'll have to have her as a guest on a future episode. Once we did dig into the Fiji research, we just decided it might not be right for us for this particular trip.
It was going to involve an overnight flight, and our families, both of us, had not tackled that yet.
If any listener has done a red eye with a kid, please do send us your tips and talk us through those logistics, because I'm definitely all ears. I have people who have said that red eyes are great with kids, but I'm really intimidated.
Me too. And also, the time change for a 1-week trip to Fiji seemed intimidating. Plus, all the places we were researching seemed to cost more than either of us really wanted to spend on this particular vacation. So I think we just decided it made sense to save Fiji for another time.
I feel like we'll do Fiji maybe when we have more time so the time change makes sense, and when the kids are a little older, and when we want a little bit more of a splurge trip.
Agreed. And when they can appreciate it too. I just had this feeling that we'd be going to this island and spending all this money on this all-inclusive trip, and they'd be like, where are my chicken fingers? And it's like, do you know how much this meal plan costs? So I think we save it till they can appreciate it.
Yeah, a little less resentment for the kids and their chicken finger meals.
Yeah.
Then we pivoted to Costa Rica. We'll do an entire episode on Costa Rica because we have done that with the kids before and we loved it. But as we were going down that path, we did collectively decide, let's just check out a new country. Let's not repeat a country that we've already done, even though there's obviously so much more we could do in Costa Rica that we haven't done with the kids. I feel like we all wanted to get another stamp on our passports.
Melissa's right. Costa Rica offers so many different areas to explore. And when we did the trip, which we'll talk about, it was one place in one location because our kids were young, and that's what made sense. Costa Rica does have a spot in our travel itinerary in the future, especially the kids will be bigger and they can do a lot of the adventurous activities like ziplining. But we said, let's shelve it. Let's go explore somewhere new. And that's when someone threw out Panama. And why we never considered this, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know why Panama hasn't come up as part of our options before. So honest moment, what was your initial reaction when I threw out Panama?
I didn't have any sort of reaction. It wasn't even on my radar. The only thing I really knew about Panama was the canal, of course, but also my dad, who's a big outdoorsman, goes there fishing a ton. So in my head, I'm like, oh, it's just like a place for fishermen, which is wildly incorrect. And speaking of the algorithm, my phone heard me, and then Instagram started serving me all this content on Panama, and it's really quite beautiful if you go and do the research.
The more we looked into it, the more it just seemed like it checked every box. It had beaches, it had jungles, it had big city energy, especially on the mainland. And then for us, that 2-hour time change is just basically a gift. It's not a big jet lag issue. The kids will be able to stay a little bit on their rhythm, especially when it's just a 1-week spring break trip and everyone has to go back to work and school right afterwards. It seemed like it was making sense.
Right. And going east 2 hours is definitely a gift. So instead of getting up at 6, they're getting up at 8. For my family, we generally don't try to encourage switching to the new time zone. We just let them get up and go to sleep at the time that they would when we were at home. And it tends to work out well because then we can stay out later for dinners and we can sleep in a little bit. It's nice to go east an hour or two. And price-wise, Panama is much more affordable than some places like Fiji.
Even though our kids do have the same spring break week off, our travel logistics are a little bit interesting because we're going to leave on different dates. So my family is going to come in a day later than Kathleen's family due to commitments to mine and my husband's day jobs. After all, we do want to keep our bosses and our 9-to-5s happy with us. That is how we pay for these trips after all.
Melissa and I are very lucky because we have unlimited PTO with our work. Not that we abuse it. Unfortunately, both of our husbands only get a certain number of days per year. So we've really got to maximize when we use them so that we can do all these fun vacations together.
That goes back to our motto that we've talked about in prior episodes. Each family is in charge of getting yourself to the international destination. We're not making Kathleen's family wait a day for us. They're just going to go ahead, get set up, and we'll meet them there.
But we're not going to have any fun when Melissa and her family aren't there. We already made that promise to her. It's going to be so boring. We'll just make sure we do all the boring things and we don't have any fun so she doesn't miss out on anything.
So we have been itinerary planning for this trip, and I made it very clear that day 1 cannot be any fun at all, and they have to talk about how they miss us at least 3 times per person.
Can you tell Melissa has a lot of FOMO?
So much FOMO.
Let's talk flights real quick. We looked into a lot of different options. We normally go to a flight aggregator like Kayak to see who flies where first, what's direct, has maybe one stop in between. And so there are direct flights from LAX to Panama. And I believe that's the case for a lot of major flight hubs within the US, just because it's a jump off point for South America. And I believe the carrier from LAX is Copa, which is a Star Alliance United partner. However, for this trip, it was very expensive to book the direct flight, so we started exploring connections.
Even though we're going on different days, both of us elected to fly on United. We are also breaking our direct flight rule, and we're both going to be taking a layover on this flight out. But the nice thing is that we'll both be flying out of Orange County, which is where we lived, instead of out of LAX, so we don't have to do that hour drive up to LA.
And save the cost on an Uber or taxi too. And points-wise, both of our families booked these flights on points. If we were looking at a direct out of LAX, it was around 80,000 points. Fast forward, guess what? The connection only costs 40,000, and that's just a significant difference in cost and points. I mean, the points don't cost anything. They're funny money, right?
It did end up being a no-brainer for us. We will check back in after this vacation on whether that layover and the cheaper points was the right decision, but I'm already feeling confident that the combination of less points, flying out of a closer airport, and having just an hour and a half layover for each of us, I think it's the right decision. I think it'll be fine.
I think so too. And the kids are older this year too. So I'm not as anxious getting on a flight, having a connection, having them wait in the airport. We're not skipping naps and them to be very cranky. So it felt like an appropriate time to say, all right, let's try a connection, see what happens.
So as we mentioned, we're both flying into Panama City. Since we're both arriving on different days, we ended up getting 2 separate rental houses for our families in Casco Viejo, which on the map looks like they're going to be a block away from each other. So I think we're going to still have the benefit of being super close on vacation. But obviously, since you're getting in a day earlier, you didn't need the extra 2 to 3 bedrooms that my family commands. So I think it's the cost-effective decision too.
We chose to stay in Casco Viejo because it looks really charming, super walkable, and easy with kids.
It's considered a UNESCO historic district, and there's a huge push to renovate and to bring some of those dilapidated buildings back into their former glory from when the area was first developed back in 1673. There's also an older part of town called Panama Viejo that was destroyed by pirates, apparently. And that predates Casco Viejo, but it seems like it's mostly just ruins based on what I've seen online so far. We'll have to find out when we're there.
Yeah, it's funny. Casco Viejo means old town, but it's the new old town. And then the other one, Panama Viejo, is like the old town. So not to confuse anybody. We'll go visit and let you know what it's all about.
We'll learn all about it.
Some insight on Central America. We are going during Semana Santa, which translates to Holy Week, and it's over Easter. So this is a big time for celebration in Panama. It's coupled with spring break. So flights and hotels were more expensive and pretty booked up when we were looking into this. Shame on us for not checking into this earlier. I would say, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, we both have a preference for VRBOs. Is it VRBO or Verbo? Like, somebody chime in and tell me if I'm saying it right or wrong. I don't know. What do you say?
I think it's Verbo, but the only reason I think that is because I watch the Kardashian shows and they call it Verbo, and I feel like they know what's up. So if it's good enough to call it Verbo from the Kardashian perspective, I will call it Verbo as well.
Okay, I will try to fix my pronunciation.
Channel your inner Kardashian.
We have a preference to stay in a Verbo. And we try to book Airbnbs because they have laundry, there's a kitchen situation. But in Casco Viejo, I was very tempted by the hotels. There are a bunch of quaint little boutique apartments and other hotel chains that looked awesome. For reference, the rental that we're staying in is going to run us about $400 per night per family. I do believe that if it wasn't Semana Santa, that the accommodations would actually be much cheaper.
The fact that we're going over this holiday time is definitely driving up the prices. I love staying in a rental house for all the reasons you just mentioned. But when we were doing the research, we were sort of starting to get swayed by some of those hotels, like
How's your Spanish, Melissa?
Why do I have all the Spanish ones?
Okay, I'm gonna chime in here.
Guys, we write notes of the hotels that we looked into, and I just looked at all the names, and I'm gonna butcher how to pronounce every single one of these hotel names.
So the first one's Hotel La Compañía Casco Antiguo. Go ahead, Melissa.
So that one looked incredible. That one was fully booked, though. The grounds were beautiful. It had a pool. There is this beautiful Hyatt property. The prices there ranged from about $250 all the way up to $750. Again, though, this was booked up for the room types that we would have needed for each of our family sizes. Another hotel that looked really promising was Central Hotel, which is off of the main square. And then how about you tell us?
So the next one's La Concordia Boutique Hotel and Tantalo Hotel, which they had really awesome rooftop bars to check out. So we might go look at them anyway while we're there. And then the Concordia was about $200 per night. And on the higher side, Tantalo was around $350 per night. And I believe those were for 1 bedrooms with 2 queens. And just for reference, the rental that we got has multiple bedrooms so that our family can be sleeping separately and split up. Everybody can get better rest. And for $400 per night for the family, it just checked more boxes for us. I'd say in Panama, there are a lot of beautiful hotels. That's the easy way to go. But if you want a little more room for your family, there's some awesome rentals as well.
So on the activity planning side, we're both using a lot of AI in order to get a general sense of what to do and what to see. And then once something piques our interest, we're going deeper in our own research. Lots of shared documents between us to keep us all organized with the travel logistics. As for activities, my super nerdy bucket list item is the Panama Canal. I cannot wait to see it.
So Melissa and I have this in common. We love learning new things about historical monuments and like going on interesting tours like this. So I am very excited about the canal as well. For reference, the ships move one way in the morning and then they switch the flow and they move back the other direction in the evening. We'll probably go early because the kids will be up anyway. And then we can beat the midday sun. But people do keep recommending this canal movie experience. I think that'll be our schedule. We'll see the boats move, which I don't know what to expect there. I think ships move pretty slow. So how exciting or thrilling that will be, I'm not sure. And my kids would love to sit through a movie. Those are the 2 things we're going to focus on during the tour experience.
And then it also looks like the city has a ton of amazing green spaces nearby that area. We'll probably be able to run around there in order to get the sillies out for the kids. It does look like it's going to be really hot. I think it's always hot there. Panama is so close to the equator. A lot of our activity planning, we are keeping the heat in mind. I'm picturing early mornings and then afternoons back at the rental houses for naps and downtime and all of that. And then we'll probably venture back out once the heat dies down a little bit.
That brings up a really good point. We always pack rehydration packets to add to the water wherever we go. Think like drip drop or liquid IV. When it's very hot in these tropical climes, it's sometimes hard to get the kids to drink a lot of fluids.
The rehydration packets really help keep the kids from being dehydrated. Also us too. I drink them.
Yeah. It gets me to drink my water at home. I'm like, ew, boring, regular water. And then you add in like a liquid IV and it's like, delicious. I'll drink 3 liters.
It's like a fun little sweet treat.
We've talked about traveler's diarrhea before. The primary thing with kids when they have that is to keep them hydrated. The rehydration packets cover that as well. Panama City has a lot to offer, but we also wanted to add in another leg of the trip. And so we decided to go to Bocas del Toro. It's a beautiful chain of islands on the Caribbean side of Panama.
But to get there, we're going to have to take a tiny puddle jumper flight, which triggers my fear of flying once again.
Melissa, you're being so brave. It's going to be fine. I will pack some snacks for you and make sure that you're comfy on the flight, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. There is a bus option to get there, but it looks like it's a 9-hour bus drive. And with how limited we are with time, it just didn't really seem like it would make sense. So when the logistics make sense for the flight, I will obviously always take this flight and suck it up. So we're flying to the islands, guys.
Could you imagine if we all took the flight and then Melissa's like, I'm taking the bus. I'll see you in a day.
See ya in 9 hours.
Bocas is known as the Galapagos of the Caribbean, and there are a ton of islands in the archipelago. Isla Colón is the main hub where you fly in, and it's the bigger city with dining and nightlife. We wanted to do more of a laid-back island vibe, so we were going to stay on Isla Bastimientos. We are going to stay on Isla Bastimiento. We are going to stay on Isla Bastimentos.
So when we were looking into accommodations in Bocas, they all looked super stunning. Some of the awesome places that you can stay were Azula Paradise Resort, which had overwater bungalows. My husband and I have stayed in an overwater bungalow in Tahiti, and it was unreal. But I'm just not sure about my kids in an overwater bungalow.
It does give me a bit of anxiety because say somebody decides to get out of bed in the middle of the night and just goes out the door and plop into the water. You really can't control that. I know that's probably a mom fear and I'm giving it too much credit, but it would keep me up at night.
Yes, and we want good sleep on this trip. That was out. La Loma included a chocolate farm and tree houses that were suspended in the jungle, which looked super awesome.
Once again, in the middle of the night, wandering out and falling out of the tree house.
Yeah, I guess you're reminding me why we talked ourselves out of that one. And then Isla Palenque seemed like a dream, but it was a little bit more on the expensive side for what we were looking to spend. But if you're willing to splurge, that one looked really cool.
It honestly didn't seem like there was one bad option for our group, except for Popa Paradise Beach, which appeared to be a clothing optional resort. So I don't think that one was for the kids.
Yes. There were less Verbos in Bocas than on the mainland. We ultimately chose Red Frog Island Resort because we could rent a huge house that would fit our families and still get the resort amenities. That's the sweet spot with kids, honestly. The house rental means snacks on demand, your own kitchen for breakfast, spaces to decompress, but we're all still kind of together so the kids can run around. Red Frog has also just been very accommodating to us before we have even arrived.
They've been so nice and very responsive via WhatsApp, and I talked to them on the phone as well. It's hard to assess on site what the units look like on the map. So I was able to communicate with them back and forth to figure out which was the right unit for our group. We also asked if they had any book direct discounts. So make sure to talk to them to get the best deals. And then one thing to note, specifically in Bocas, it did seem that many resorts were eco lodges and perhaps did not have air conditioning. Since Panama is near the equator, it can be very hot. And so while a pool is refreshing, I find it really hard to sleep at night if there's not air conditioning. Make sure to check in on this with the resort before you book. I know this is a first world problem, but I need my air conditioning.
So that's the overview of how Panama became the winner for this year's big family adventure. As of this recording, we haven't gone on the trip yet. So if anyone has tips or suggestions for us, please send them our way by visiting our website, ourorganizedchaos.com, or DMing us on TikTok or on Instagram at our.organized.chaos.
We started this podcast 3 months ago, and we are loving every minute of this wild ride. We have hundreds of downloads and a special shout out to all our international listeners.
Yes, Organized Chaos has gone global. We have listeners in Canada, France, Singapore, Ghana, Fiji, and the UK. We do have a small favor for you all. If you like what you're hearing, please share our podcast with a friend.
Any listen counts. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to follow our socials and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode.
Thanks for listening. See you on our next adventure.